Ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the invitation to present on the Nigerian gas sector. I must sort of thank Perchstone and Graeys for the invitation, and also Fiki. For me, it's my first visit to India, and it's been an interesting experience so far. I'm amazed at the similarities between the two countries. Like Osaro said earlier in the day, both on the good and the bad side. And I see the opportunities for us to collaborate even better as a result. I'll spend the next couple of minutes talking to you broadly about the Nigerian gas sector, the opportunities there, and some of the reforms that we've had to go through over the last couple of years, many of which are beginning to take hold now, and which provide a kind of comfort for potential investors from India who might be looking to invest in the Nigerian gas sector. So just starting off with this slide, this shows you broadly our position in terms of reserves potential. On the crude oil side, Nigeria, like you know, currently has an estimated proven reserves of about 37 billion barrels, which is quite a significant crude oil reserves by global standards. On gas, we have about 187 trillion cubic feet of proven gas reserves, which puts us around about 8th largest in the world with respect to gas reserves. So in terms of hydrocarbon resource, proven resource potential, clearly Nigeria has a sufficient platform for investment. Now, beyond the proven reserves, our undiscovered potential is even more significant. The chart on the left-hand side basically shows you the various sedimentary basins in Nigeria. And of all these basins, up until now, we are focused only on one part of it, which is the Niger Delta. We still have a huge amount of unexplored basins in Nigeria, which have a huge potential to significantly increase our reserves potential. On the right-hand side is the gas undiscovered potential as well. The U.S. Geological Service actually puts our undiscovered potential in Nigeria at 600 trillion cubic feet. So if you put that together with the proven reserves, our potential to be within the world's top 3 in terms of gas reserves is undisputed. And in fact, a lot of people actually see Nigeria as a gas province rather than an oil province. So in terms of resource potential, we are indeed a major resource holder and one that provides sufficient platform for collaboration between the two countries. Now, like you've heard today, we've talked a lot about the shale gas, the shale phenomena in the US, and so on and so forth. So the equation is shifting radically. It's not so much about reserves potential anymore. The real issue is about market access and market share, right? Because the entire dynamics of the hydrocarbon world has changed in the last few years. And what that has meant is that the markets that we targeted in the past, particularly in the Atlantic basin, that market, particularly the US, is pretty much evaporated overnight. And we are now beginning to look eastwards as market. And in that discussion, clearly, India is a very relevant party to that because this is a market that is going to be very relevant to Nigeria going forward. So what does that mean in terms of our relationship? On one hand, we've got a huge resource base and a huge potential to even explore that base significantly. On the other hand, India is a major and potential market for which there is a huge basis for us to do business. As we speak, as at the end of 2011, Nigeria exported about 100 million barrels of crude oil to India, which translates to around about 8% of, close to 10% of India's imports. And we expect that that figure is going to climb going forward. So clearly there is a huge basis for the relationship between both countries to progress. Now, of course, we've talked about Indian interest in power sector, also in our industrial capacity. Nigeria is talking about gas-based industrialization, fertilizer, petrochemicals, and so on. And one of our major players is Nagarjuna, which is an Indian company. I visited them 2 days ago. These are people we're striking very, very deep partnership with. So the long and short is there couldn't be a better time for collaboration between the two countries. I think the fundamentals are right for that collaboration, and I hope that this relationship today will clearly underpin that relationship going forward. But if we're going to work together, it's important for you to understand our aspirations as a nation in terms of gas and what we have done over the last few years to realize that aspiration. The president has set clearly 3 cardinal objectives for gas in Nigeria, and we're pursuing those objectives vigorously. The first one is gas to power. Our plan is to leverage our huge gas resource to transform the Nigerian power sector. You've heard a lot about the power sector this morning, the immediate challenges of gas to power and the progress that we have made so far and the progress we're going to be making going forward. Gas to power is a key element of that agenda, and we're working on that. The second element of our agenda for gas is gas-based industrialization. Our plan is to position Nigeria as the regional hub for gas-based industries like fertilizer, petrochemicals, and methanol. We believe that there is sufficient gas resource in Nigeria to underpin a gas-based industrialization. And that is why the President has directed, through the Gas Revolution Agenda, an industrialization program, which is about to start, and like I said, for which the Indian company, Nigerian, and a couple of others are going to be critical players going there, and for which, as I talk later, you see the investment opportunities that are inherent in that. And of course, finally, is export. Not only are we looking at the domestic gas or gas industrialization, our plan is to maintain Nigeria's market share of about 10% in global export. In terms of global LNG, we aspire to maintain what is currently about a 8, 9, 10% market share and sustain that market share over the next few years. And that is underpinned by our investments in the various LNG projects that you can see here. We currently have the Nigerian LNG that you know is existing. It produces about 26 million tons per annum. The gas from Nigerian LNG does not come to India directly, but through all sorts of gas swaps and diversion finds its way into India. But going forward, we see an opportunity for a more structured diversion or sales agreement directly with India. And so the new projects that we're looking at, the Brass LNG project, which is approaching final investment decision, the Olokola LNG, these are projects that we believe can underpin the basis for a more transactional and direct relationship with India going forward. So just to recap, our gas agenda is anchored on 3 clearly articulated visions of gas to power, gas industrialization, and a clear and position in global export of about 10%. What then does that translate to in terms of a supply growth? This chart shows you what would appear to be one of the world's most aggressive growth in gas supply that is needed to underpin that agenda. We're looking at a sort of astronomical growth both in the Nigerian domestic gas market but also in the export. The export is in gray and the non-gray is the domestic market. Both sectors are going to be growing very aggressively over the next couple of years. And in fact, if you combine the two together, we are looking at close to about 1.5 million barrels of oil equivalent from the Nigerian gas sector alone. That in itself is a capacity that is bigger than most oil sectors in Africa put together. So the Nigerian gas sector is set for one of the most prolific growths ever. Inherent in that growth is the investment opportunity that I hope some investors here can take advantage of going forward. But how do you get to that point? We've talked a lot today, and I was really interested in Mr. Taslim's comments about, bringing real reform, but in a practical sense, not textbook type reform. We've had to put in place an aggressive reform in the Nigerian gas sector. And as potential investors in Nigeria, it's important to understand the reform we are going through, where we are in that reform, to give you the necessary confidence you need to invest in Nigeria. When we started the gas master plan reform, we put in a 4-step process to move us towards a fully liberalized gas market in Nigeria. Because if you look at where we were coming from, if you look at the blue tail for several years, the Nigerian gas sector literally did not exist. It was a 200 million cubic feet per day, 300 million cubic feet per day sector. What that meant was that our gas infrastructure was not developed and was not in a position to support the kind of astronomical growth that you